All right, we're going to continue now in Chapter 8. So I'm still in Unit 6 in our course shell. And I'm going to bring up the Chapter 8 PowerPoint. We're going to talk through some concepts. I am going to be coding while I go through this. This is not a really lengthy chapter, but it is an important one in my mind. So if you can get all your coding tools ready if you want to try to follow along. What I'm going to be doing is I am going to be working on the site that I've been working with all along. So I am going to use Dreamweaver as my editor. I'm actually kind of finding excuses to use it these days, you know. I kind of misusing it, so that's why I'm going back to it. I'm also going to kind of prepare my folders to do some work. So I have, you know, kind of a technique I've been doing here all along. And, you know, I do this, and you guys might even get sick of me doing it, where I say version your work every week. And so I was in my ASP.NET 2 class on Monday, and I started doing my work, and guess what I didn't do before I started? I didn't version my work, and guess what happened to me? I blue screened and lost my work. And not only that, I also corrupted Visual Studio at the same time. So I had to reload the software during class, and so I got like double burned. My software got corrupted, and and I lost my files. Unfortunately, I had backups from last year, so I was able to kind of recover. But what really sucked is the one time, okay, I'm trying to see what this says. But where's my options here? These block some features of this app. Okay, well, we'll deal with that separately. All right. But what I thought was fascinating about it is the one time I didn't version my work, that's when it bit me. So what I'm going to do first, because I learned my lesson the hard way again, even though I should know better, right? Because I teach this, right? Always version your work. So I'm going to keep working on my Mr. Robot site. It's all in my Unit 5 folder. So I'm going to, before I start, I'm going to make a copy. I'm going to paste it in. And I'm going to rename it, because now we're in Unit 6, right? Right. Unit 6. All right, so now I got a backup. I can always go back to Unit 5 and start over if I need to. The mistake I made on Monday is I was working on the original. I messed it up, couldn't fix it. You know, because when you get to more complicated applications, sometimes things just break and you just cannot fix them because you're working with compiled code and it becomes a completely different animal. But here we go. I do have my site up here. I'm going to pull it up in the site definition here inside of Dreamweaver. I have some of my pages are already up on the screen. They just kind of come up automatically. And now I'm going to get into the PowerPoint and start talking about the topics. All right, so the key takeaway from this chapter is working with tables in HTML. Okay, and I'm going to show you how to build them, and then we're going to learn about some of the higher level table features, why they're still around, and the fact that we can also style tables with CSS and do some interesting things with them. What's interesting about an HTML table, and you've probably seen these on websites both in primitive and advanced formats, is it's something that has been around for a really long time, almost since the dawn of HTML. So people started creating web pages, and really early on they started to figure out, it's like, boy, you know, like, remember like what our web pages looked like the first week, you know? In fact, I can like kind of go back and look at like this, right? So of course it comes up over there, here it is, and go, yeah, that's not really nice, right? I mean, compared to where we started and where we're now, right? We really come a long way. But people looked at this and like, oh my God, this is hideous, right? Even back in the old days. Right. Sometimes you were just excited to get it up on screen, but the reality is this is not very appealing to look at. And one of the major problems it has is when you get to the actual text here, this screen is so wide, I'm like, right, and you come back. Your eye doesn't want to read like that. We've talked about that. And so what people back then even realized is like, well, okay, we don't want to have all the text go all the way across. What can we do to kind of control the layout of things? And you know what? Text is great, but what if we want to put up like a list of like numbers or organize stuff into like a chart or something, or like a list or something like that? And so what they did is they came up with this thing called an HTML table. And what the table does is it creates a structure within your page that allows for what we call tabular data. So think of that, right? And what that means is rows and columns. And that's a really important structure in IT, folks, right? Because usually you're dealing with either a straight text file, like the HTML files that we create, and it can contain data and all this stuff, or you're dealing with a spreadsheet-like structure that has rows and columns of associated information. And so what they show here is we have 3 columns, kind of intuitive. We've got name, birthday, phone number, right? The top row indicates what's in the rows below it, and in the rows below it is like information for each column, right? And if you guys have never worked with a spreadsheet, it's basically what we do with spreadsheets, right? So just a way to kind of like not only organize the information, but it also kind of creates a structure. What is kind of interesting here is the way to build like what we see here is actually pretty darn simple. So we're going to start with these 3 basic tags, which is enough to build what we see on the screen there. All right? So we're going to use the table tag that holds the whole structure. Then we will have what we call a table row. So we need a TR tag for every row. And then we need a TD tag for every cell. And then, of course, the caption gives us this thing at the top. All right? Here's what the code looks like. And hopefully this is editable. Because I'm hoping not to type, you know? So I'm kind of lazy. All right, I'll create a table. All right. I'll do it manually. We'll use the example. So you guys got this in your heads? Right? Sort of? All right. Now I'm going to start to build it. Now watch what happens. First I need to pick a page. So why don't we actually do this? Let's go to my file folder. I'm sorry to be jumping around like this, but I want to go to the version I'm working on currently, and I'm trying to figure out what page do I want to put it on. I'm going to leave that page alone. I could do code examples. I don't think Contact Us is the best place for it. Maybe let's do it on the About page, all right? I'm going to put a table on the About page. Sound like a plan? Sounds like a plan. All right. So I have my About page open here inside of my editor. And I know that in the main content area, which is right here, I have a paragraph that says this is the About page, and then I have an image inside there. All right, I'll leave the image alone. We don't have to change that, but I'm going to create a little room to do some editing right here. So to build a table, the first tag that we're going to use is table, right? My editor automatically throws in the closing tag. Okay. Notice how I'm creating a little space. All right. What they suggest, the author suggests, is this. You can put in an attribute called border, and I'm going to set it to 1. It does stand for 1 pixel. The reason I'm doing that is I want to be able to see the outline of the table as I'm building it, because it shows me where everything starts and ends. What you can do later, though, is you can set this to 0, and those borders can disappear, just so you know. All right. The next thing that they do is they put in a caption. So I'm going to put in a caption, and then you put in some text. What are we gonna build a table about? I know. Green Bay Packers. That's a good one. All right, silly as it is.
Minnesota Vikings.
Wrong answer. No, I'm not going to knock Vikings fans just because they're not cool. Maybe a little bit. All right. All right. So next thing I did is I put in a row tag. Did you guys catch that? And then inside the row tag, I added a table data cell. And I'm going to add, you know what? I'm going to put 3 of them in there. And I don't know exactly what data I'm going to put in here yet. But here's your basic structure. All right. If I want to have more than 1 row, I can just repeat these lines of text like this. And what some people will tell you is if you have empty cells, you should actually put a non-breaking space inside of it to to make sure it shows up. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to think here for a little bit. I'm going to put in, what kind of information would I put into columns and rows for a football team? Maybe wins, losses, percentages, right? So the wins, how many wins we have? I think we're at 6 wins. We've got 1 loss, and then I don't know what that percentage is, but let's just make up something that looks really good, all right? I don't know. I'm stretching here. This isn't really a good example. Maybe a better example would be this. How about quarterback? Who's our quarterback? Everybody kind of knows this one, right? And then I don't know what other stat we can. How about his number? Okay. All right. Okay. Somebody else name a Packer player.
Aaron Rodgers?
Matthew something?
Nobody? What kind of Packer fans are you guys?
Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah.
Not one Packer player.
So Aaron Rodgers is not a Packer anymore?
Aaron Rodgers. Oh, we already got him up there.
Oh, we're good. Okay.
Yeah. Name the position. Okay. How about running back? Who's our running back? Come on.
Okay, Aaron Jones.
Thank you. You guys have the world of information at your fingertips. You should just type Green Bay Packers team roster. Boom. Aaron Jones, right on. He's pretty hot right now. What's his player number? This is the true test of Packer fans, you guys. I'm disappointed. Very disappointed.
33.
Thank you. All right. So I created 2 rows with 3 cells each and a caption at the top. I'm going to save this. Let's go ahead and bring it up in the browser. Did I save it? I thought I saved it. Oh, you know what I did? I put this on my Unit 5 page. Guess what I'm going to do? Move it to my Unit 6 page. So all these files that I had open here are from a wrong unit folder. I want to open up this unit folder because I'm creating versions, right? So I'm opening up my About page. I'm sorry about that, folks. Just shows your teacher makes mistakes sometimes too. Okay, so there's my table. Real concise. Saving it. Now when I go back to the browser and refresh, there it's going to be. Right. Not the prettiest thing in the world, but you know what? There it is. Right? I noticed that my border thing didn't take, though. You guys pick that up?
Maybe it's like 5 or 10.
No, it should just show. Yeah. I didn't misspell. I'm a little perplexed by it, frankly. I know my code, folks. That should actually work. I say chuckling. All right. I think that's really bizarre. Did I miss something here? I don't think I missed anything. It's a well-formed table. So why on earth? I know why. Actually, this is considered deprecated. So they really want me to do it with CSS. What's that?
I'm saying it's just too good because most of these browsers are backwards.
Yeah, that's why I'm a little perplexed by it. Oh, I know why. You want to know why? Here's the why. Boom.
Forget about the X.
Right. I said border 0 for all my, I have like this override. Let me just turn it off for a minute. So remember I told you like when you do something like that, then you have to go back in and add all the styles back in manually. I'm just turning that off for a second, okay? Just to show you that I'm not an idiot and I do know how to make this work. All right, there it is. All right, so there's a table. It's not the prettiest looking thing right now, right? It's like the layout's kind of horrible, but you guys get the point, right? And the border 1 shows you where the edges of the border are so you can see what you're doing. All right, that's a really basic table. We're going to start ramping this up a little bit. So We're probably going to add a little bit more content. So let's get a couple more players in there. I'm going to copy this structure, and since I know at least Joe's on the Green Bay Packer page, give me another position. Left guard or right guard? Okay, guard, fine. All right, now you got to spell for me. Like M-A-C or M-C? And his player number? 64. All right, let's do one more. How about this? Kicker. And Mason Crosby, right? I don't remember his number. What's his number? Yeah, I don't know his number, but 99, I guess. All right. All right, so let's go back. Just take a look, see what we did. Just added a couple more rows. See how easy that is? Right? Now, I'm noticing that there's like, it's touching the stuff below. I'm going to just primitively put in a couple of line breaks below. I'm going to put in primitively a couple line breaks above. Just check it again. I just want a little more space around it so I can see it. Is that all right? Okay. So now we have our basic table structure, a few rows of information. Now we're going to add stuff to it. Let's go back to the book. The first thing that the book is going to say is, you know what, they have this other tag that's kind of like a TD, but it's designed to be a header. And notice what that is. That's a TH. So I'm going to add a row above the players. Oops. I mean, that's not what we want. We want create another row. So I'm going to copy that row structure, paste it in, but I'm going to change all the TDs to THs. And that makes them table header tags. And I'm doing this manually. There's probably faster ways to do it. And then since this is a header tag, this should be the column header. Okay? So instead of quarterback, I'll say position, player, number. If I save that, go back and take a look, and do a refresh, here's what I created. And what I'm going to try to do here is kind of show you the side by side a little bit. So the THs give you another row, but notice what it does. It like bolds the font, centers the text, and creates a nice little table header, right? Not too bad. This is primitive HTML, right? We can keep ramping this up though, folks, so that's what we're going to do next. You guys are good? All right. Back to the PowerPoint. So that was a table header, right? So they're showing you what it looks like in the aftermath. We're moving on. There are some attributes that we can throw in. And I want you to notice really carefully that there's some attributes here that are considered obsolete. In fact, almost all of them. Isn't that interesting? And here's the reason why. The border tag is the only one that they've left as part of the standard because you can do with it exactly what we've just done. And that is, I can make it show. So in the CSS, or right here in the HTML, I can say border 1 and have the borders show up so I can see where they're at. But what I actually might choose to do later is, I really don't want to see the borders. I can set it to border 0 or just remove that. And then when I go to the browser and refresh, then I get that look. Now right now it looks a little crowded because it's not laid out really well, right? Would you guys agree? But if I add a little bit of spacing and padding and colors and stuff, I can make that look really nice, and I really don't need the dividers. But what is helpful about those dividers is that it does show me where the borders are. Some of these other ones, even though they're considered obsolete, do still work. But what they prefer that you do is, instead of using these, use CSS instead, because you can control all the background color, the text alignment, the padding and the spacing between the cells. You can control all of that with CSS, and that's considered the better approach. Here's the thing though, they're considered obsolete, but the truth is they all still work. Okay? In the old days, some people would see this structure and then they started to figure out, hey, if I want a multi-column layout, I could just put my stuff right inside of a table, and that would give me a multi-column layout. And that's how a lot of people used tables in the old days, was to actually do layouts. And the reason is this, because whenever you'd put it in a table and you would set a width and the padding and all that stuff, it looked the same in every browser, regardless of if it didn't read the CSS right or not. And that's why people used it. All right? So if we want to use, are these duplicate slides? It looks like it, right? All right. Let's go ahead and add a little bit of CSS to our table. And what I would like to do to add some CSS is I'm actually going to give my table an ID. And I'm going to say GBP table, right, for Green Bay Packer table, right? It's got to be cool. So I'm going to highlight that. I'm going to copy it over to my style sheet. And I'm going to add this right to the very bottom. It doesn't really matter where you put it, but I'm going to add to the bottom. So I'm going to say # Green Bay Packer table, curly brackets, and now we're going to start putting in some stuff. So if I want to put padding in, cell padding, I got to think about this really carefully, because maybe I should demonstrate it like this, folks. Let me show you the old school way to do it. Like, I would just come up here and I would say cell padding 5 pixels. Now watch what it does to the table real carefully. What it's going to do is it's going to put, did I save my work? Oh, I didn't save my style sheet, see? Although that shouldn't matter. Yeah, so here once again, my style sheet is overriding me because of this global thing I have. And okay, so I'm gonna just temporarily move this. I hate doing this, right? And I have to save it. Okay, now watch the table. See how it put a little space in there? All right, I'm going to go back to my style sheet and do an undo. And I'm going to do the same thing with the border. And then I'm going to go save that, back to my code. And then I'm going to remove these from here. We're going to control all this stuff from CSS, so let's just get rid of it. Save my HTML file, back to CSS, way to the bottom where my styles are. So I'm just going to put in padding, but the padding is not applied to the whole table. This is the catch. It's applied to the individual cells. That's why it's called cell. So I have to say GP table TD for the cell, right? And then I can say padding, and I might choose something even larger than I did. I might say 10 pixels. And I might also say border solid, spelled correctly. Let's see, let's go 1 pixel and black. Saving it, do a refresh. Now you see how the cell padding helped it a little bit, right? I'm still not a fan of the borders, but you know what? We can fix that. The other thing that I'm going to do is, quarterback looks good, all the positions look good, the player names look good, but I think the numbers would look better if they were in the middle. How do you guys feel about that? Say yes. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my source code, and all the numbered cells, so these, I'm going to add a class to them and say GBP num column. Something that means something to me. And then I'm going to take that class, and I'll take the space too, and apply it to each one of the number ones, like this. Then I'm going to copy this name. I'm going to save my HTML, go over to my style sheet. I'm going to add a new style just for that class, right? And I'm going to say text align center like so. And now I'm going to refresh. You see the numbers are in the center. Looks better, right? Boy, I hate that border. You know what? Maybe it's just because it's so black. Maybe I'm just going to switch it to, gray. It's better. Let's see what that looks like. Refresh. A little lighter, a little better. Pretty cool-ish.
So it's going all around for each.
Yeah, Joe's thinking like me now. What are you thinking? A top border only?
Yeah.
Let's do top border. Yeah, I like that one. All right. So instead of doing the border all the way around, maybe we should just put the border on the top. All right, let's save that. And this is the kind of stuff that you might not think about right away, but I think that looks kind of nice. Right? Or, yeah. See, now you're starting to, now you're going where I'm going. It's like, maybe that border would be better applied instead of putting it on the rows. See, this is the kind of troubleshooting you got to do. Instead of putting it on the cells, maybe we can put it on the row. And instead of having it here, we'll move it to the row. And instead of putting it on the top, let's put it on the bottom. The neat thing about this is the table headers also are a row. Right, so watch what happens now. Oh, it didn't even work at all. What did I do wrong? Did I save? I saved. Did I refresh? I must have done something wrong. What did I do wrong? Let's see if you can help me figure it out. I think my syntax is okay.
Border happening at 0. I don't know if that would affect this border.
Yeah, that's a good point. So John is saying, well, we had this border set to 0. Is that affecting this? Well, here's let's rule that out, right? Because we know we were having issues with it before. So let's comment that out, go back and refresh. No.
Maybe if we inspect element, it shows why stuff isn't working.
That's not a bad idea. So Joe's like thinking like a problem solver now, and he's saying, what? Maybe if we inspect element and look at our table. So find our table in our structure here. So I'm going to go find it. So here's my table, right? I'm trying to expand it. And let's see. Table body, table row, right?
Yeah, so it's not applying to that.
Yeah, it's not applying it for some reason. And this has got my CSS style crossed out.
Yeah, and that shows that the previous border wasn't affecting that.
Yeah, that's exactly what it shows. All right. So for whatever reason, I'm not sure what is blocking it, but there's something about the hierarchy of the CSS that's not specific enough and not letting it work. Okay. So maybe I have to kind of go back to my old technique here. I thought I was being clever, and it was just being the opposite, right? Maybe I have to switch that back to where it was. But that concerns me a little bit because maybe I want to like put in a background color, and let's make it, I don't know, aqua for right now, just because that's at the top of the list. Will that work? Yeah, that worked. So it's perplexing as to why the border doesn't work. So it's possible that you can only maybe apply certain styles to certain elements. I'm thinking that's got to be the situation. I think that looks hideous, by the way, just for the record. So I'm going to actually comment it out. All right, let's go back to the book and follow along. Let's just refresh. I mean, not the best looking thing in the world, but not too bad either, right? Not too bad. Not the greatest, not too bad. I could put that like border thing, like I could copy this. Oh wait, let's learn another technique. Right? So we have a TD. What if I want to apply that to the table header as well? I can apply multiple styles like this. I can add a comma, repeat this, change that to a TH, watch the page, refresh. Okay, not too bad, a little better. Yes? Yes. Okay.
So that, what was happening before was due to border collapse. So if you had border collapse, then
Border collapse. That would fix it.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not going to bother right now, if that's all right, but thank you for researching it for me. See, I love it when my students figure out my problems for me. Thank you, Joe. All right. Let's get on to this topic, though, because this is a little bit of an important one. What if you want one of your things to span across two columns? Interesting. So I'm trying to think of a scenario I can create here. Here's my idea. All right. I'm trying to think of something that I can do to demonstrate the topic. What if I add another column? So I'm going to start at the top here and say height. I don't know if you guys see where I'm going with this. So a fourth column for height. Now, before I move on, I'm going to save this and show you what the monstrosity I just created. Right, because I just broke my table. I added a height, but notice I only added it to one of the rows. The other rows are void in that spot. Problematic, for sure. So what I'm thinking of doing here are on the subsequent pages, or on the subsequent rows, I should say, I'm going to add table data cells. In fact, I'm going to add 2 to each one. So my thinking is one for feet and 1 for inches. So height, 6'3". See where I'm going with this? So for example, I don't know how tall Aaron Rodgers is, but I'm going to go 6. I'm imagining he's tall, you know. 6'3". All right. Let's save that and take a look. And I want to show you what's happening here is if you don't create your rows and columns evenly, it kind of breaks a little bit. And really what I want to do is I want to apply that height thing to everybody. So I do want to add 2 cells for everybody. Right now they're all going to be the same height, although we know that's not the case. And then in order Let's just one more time refresh it. Right, so there's everybody 6'3". But what I would like to do is have height kind of span over both of these, and that's what the PowerPoint is showing here. How do you get something to span across two? And so what you do is you say, on the column that you want to span, the topmost one, say column span 2, or the individual one that you want it to happen to. So I'm going to go in here into my code, and at the very top, right here, I'm going to say col span 2. That means it spans 2 columns. Save it. Let's take a look. Hey, not too bad, right? Starting to look pretty good. But that's a column span. So this column, this particular table data cell is spanning 2 columns because these are 2 separate columns. You can also do, and I assume it's next, a row span where it spans 2 rows, and then you do the same thing here, but here's where you got to get careful, because if this row has 2 table data cells, you have to indicate in this first one that it's spanning 2 rows. This one gets a little complicated, but that's how you accomplish it if you want to try it. And it could be something that's useful. So for example, what I might do on a table like this, right, is I might add another column. So here's my thinking, what I would do to kind of ramp this up to the next level. My column would be, so let me add one more column here, let's do a TH. I'm trying to think of what to call this, because like you're either offense, defense, or special teams, right? So what are those categories called? What do we just call it? Category. Category. And then for each row, I'd like to add, for example, Aaron Rodgers is part of the offense. If you guys see where I'm going with this. But so is Aaron Jones. So right here, I'm going to say row span 2, where with these next ones, he's part of the defense, and he's part of special teams. So let's see what this does. Refresh. Pretty cool. Pretty simplistic example, folks, really, right? That little Green Bay Packers caption, if you don't like it, right, the way it looks, because I'm not liking the way it looks right now, real frankly, I'm going to put in a style for it. So I'm going to actually come into the style sheet, and then I am going to attribute it to that table, though. I want it to be part of that table structure. So I'm going to say that table's caption. Let's make the font size 150%. Make it a little bit bigger than it's supposed to be. And how about the color of the font? Shouldn't it be Green Bay Packer green? Right? See if you find one for me. Not just green. Is there a forest green? Yes. I don't know if that works. Refresh. A little better, right? I could argue that maybe there should be padding on the bottom of 15 pixels. And you know what? Let's do a border, and this is what you were talking about. Let's see if the border bottom works on this one. Let's make it 3 pixels, solid. Let's go with gray. I think gray looks pretty good. All right, refresh. So you see little by little how we're building this up? And that's the kind of thing you have to do. I'm not doing anything particularly fancy here, folks. But you can take kind of plain looking content and pretty quickly make it look like something. And my browser window is narrowed up because I got the inspect panel going here, which I'm going to close so you can see when it widens out it looks even better, I think. So this is a table. I think they're going to show us a couple more techniques, some tips here. Use TH tags to indicate column or row headings. Use the caption element to do a title like we did, right? And then if you're doing stuff where your design gets pretty complex, you can go in there and put individual classes or IDs on objects, or use the specificity of CSS to narrow down what you're talking about. So like I did here, where I said, well, I want to put this style in the caption, but not any caption, because what if I have a whole bunch of them, right? Just on the one for this table, just on the table rows for this table, just on the data cells and the TH cells for this table. So use the CSS to kind of control things. They talk about the captions. I thought we already did that. We did. Some styles that you can use to apply to your tables, and this is kind of interesting. On the left-hand side are the old and deprecated, right, the obsolete attributes that we used to put right inside the table tag. Now they want you to use CSS. Border's the only one, hypothetically, that should still work right. But any of the stuff, if you want to control height, width, spacing, or anything like that, and see, yeah, and Joe, there's your answer for why border collapse was the right thing for cell spacing. So we could put a little cell spacing in there by doing border spacing if we want, and that just, wherever the borders of the table are, those would get wider as opposed to the padding inside the cells. I think the table looks pretty good right now, so I'm not going to touch it, but just so you know. You can put background images on tables. Yup. You can put anything inside a table cell if you want. So if I wanted to put a background on, let's say, the caption, I could get like maybe a football or something and it could go in there if I wanted. Should I find a little football and do it? Should we just have fun? I'm just generically searching football, images, yeah, a little clip art thing like that would be good. And what size do I want it? Like an icon size, so let's get icon sized ones. Do we see one here that's particularly beautiful? I don't even want one that's even as big as these. Actually, what are we thinking here? Green Bay Packers, right? Icon size Green Bay Packer logo. There we go. I mean, if we're going to do it, we may as well do it right? Let's go ahead and grab that image. I'm going to drop it in my images folder inside my project. So I got to find my way to my folder here. Oops, Web 1, Unit 6, right? Images. And I'm going to rename this so I know what it is. GBP logo. Save. And so what I'm going to do is this. In the caption, I'm going to do background image. Let's get the file in there. Images, way at the bottom. See, it even gives you a picture. Isn't that cool? And then I'm also going to say left. I can position it left, believe it or not. Right? And say no repeat. No repeat. Okay. Let's see what that looks like. This could be hideous or it could be marvelous. That's the fun of this stuff. Sometimes you just don't know what you're creating until you kind of do it. and I think it's going to come in. Did I save it? Background, left, no, repeat. Okay, it didn't work. Not too exciting, is it? Right? Did it not work or did it not fit? That's my other issue. All right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try a couple things here. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take that image and I'm just going to resize it. So I'm going to open it with, if I can find my open with thing, here it is. I'm going to just open it with Paint, just to do it really quick. And I'm going to go to resize. I'm going to do it as pixels. I want to get it down to like 50 pixels. I think is probably good. All right, I'm going to go ahead and save it. Let's go back and see if this will make it work. So make sure this is saved, because maybe it just wasn't fitting. No, it's not. It's just not working. So something here I'm missing. All right, you know what? This is obviously not working. Maybe I also need to say top left. Just not getting it to work. All right, folks, I apologize. Here I thought I was going to be really brilliant and cool. Maybe if I just do this. See if we can even get it to show up. Hey, there we go. That's pretty bad. It does get the point across, but it's pretty bad. So let me see if I can massage that a little bit. I'm going to say instead of say, oh, I know what the problem is. See, I was putting in all those different directives, but I was only using background image. So now if I say background, I can put in the other parameters. So I can say left, no repeat, and I'm going to make the background white. Yep. All right, so save it. Let's go take a look now. Hey, all right, it's getting there. A little better, right? Put a logo on one side, put maybe the NFL thing on the other side. Maybe it could be grass instead of white, Now I'm like being all like bold and thinking I'm clever, but all right. The only other thing I'll add to this is, I have a padding bottom. Why don't I do a padding top in the same amount, because I think it looks a little unbalanced. A little better. So you see how simple this stuff is? It's not really that bad, but it does take a little bit of playing with it to make it get somewhere. But I'm taking really pretty simple HTML, adding a few styles, kind of imagining what I can do with it, and kind of bringing it to fruition, piece by piece. It's kind of fun, actually. All right, let's finish up this slideshow, folks, and talk about CSS Pseudo Classes. So this is another thing that's really kind of bizarre. And the reason we're going to talk about this is we're going to apply this to our table. So this is kind of interesting. CSS has built into it, and we've already utilized some pseudo classes. And what have we used this on so far? We've used it on the hover thing for menus, remember? We did a hover or link and visited and all those things. But there's a whole bunch of these pseudo classes. Now what pseudo means as a word is not actually. This is what it technically means. It's not really a class, it's a pseudo class. So what this means is we can look at a structure that has a repeating aspect to it, like the table does. Like the table will have repeating rows, and we can apply pseudo classes. So we can say first of type will apply only to the first element of the specified type. First child, the first thing inside that element will get a style. The last of type, so the last thing will get the thing. The last child, so the last thing inside of it. Or nth of type, to go every other row, or even ones, or every fifth row, or something like that. And that's the one that we're actually going to use here. So we're going to type in tr nth of type even and put in a background color. So let's try that. I'm going to go to my code. And so for Well, I already have things set up for TR, right? Hey, how nice is that? But we're going to put in a pseudo class, right? Nth of type, and see how it helps me to do this? And what did it recommend that we do? Even, right? Correct? Correct. Okay. And then what are we going to do? Let's just do a different background color for every even row. And we don't have to do anything particularly fancy here. The background color is kind of a beige right now, so maybe something that contrasts with that beige. I don't know, dark goldenrod perhaps? You know, this might not be the greatest of things. I'm just saying. And let's see what monstrosity we've created. Yeah, it didn't work out that great. Now the problem is I have that row span in there, so that confuses it a little bit. But if you had like a table, you can alternate color it, right? That is not a great example. But we tried. Right. But actually, you know what might work better is maybe if we try odd. It's still going to kind of do the same thing. Or if I decided, instead of nth last of type, I did last of type, I didn't do, okay. What if we do nth, what are the options again? I forget, let's look at the PowerPoint. First of type, how about first of type? So now I actually have like a target. First of, I was hoping it would auto type more for me. Can I make it auto type for me? Sure. I can just backspace and go nth.
First of type is not anything.
Yeah, there you go. First of type. I was waiting for somebody to catch on it. Very good, Joe. All right, let's do a repeat. Now just the header is like that. That doesn't look too bad. It's not the best color in the world to use, but you getting the point, right? Kind of cool. And how it might be applied. All right, that's actually a pretty advanced CSS technique, but this is just an introduction to it. And the reason they show you that is to zebra stripe a table, and that's real common, is to alternate colors slightly so you can see the rows more clearly. All right. The other thing that they suggest that you do, and you do not have to do this, mind you, is that you set up your tables like you do your documents. So take a look at this. They recommend that you actually set up header tags, and they have special ones for tables, T-head, body tags, T-body, and footer tags, T-foot. Right? I'm not going to add that to my page, but the reason that you do that is because then you can collectively style and control those elements with one tag. Right? And it also, and I don't know if you noticed the inspect element panel when I brought it up, even though I didn't have a T-body in there, the inspect element put it in for me. It assumes it. So it might not be a bad idea to throw stuff in. What it does allow you to do is set up like these into one structure, these into one structure, and then style them individually, or JavaScript them individually as a whole. So that's kind of the practicality of it. All right, folks. That's kind of the end of this chapter. We got through 2 chapters. Cha-ching, right? But that means you got homework that goes with it. Can I talk to you really quickly about the homework? Yes, Mr. Kinnis. Okay, let me do that for you. Real quickly, let's go back to Blackboard, and I want you to take a quick look at the stuff that we have on our agenda here for this unit so that you guys are staying on track. Remember that I extended the due dates for Unit 5, so you have more time to work on things, which means you have more time to work on this as well. But try not to fall behind, because there's, the work can feel like it's mounting at some point in the semester, and if you're falling behind, it feels like a lot of pressure. All right, so in this, you will have to complete the Chapter 7 case study and a Chapter 8 case study. Okay, and there'll be stuff for you to do in there. Right? But notice here, at this point, you don't have to do 2 anymore. Okay, yeah, so you guys are saying yay. So now you can just pick one and focus on that one So if you're going to do Chapter 7 on Fish Creek, you can do Chapter 8 on Fish Creek and keep building. And that's the way it's going to be for the rest of the semester. So if you want to do Java Jam, Fish Creek, Pacific Trails, yoga thing, whatever, it's up to you.
So we only have to do one.
Only have to do one from here on in. But you do have to do a separate one for Chapter 7 and a separate one for Chapter 8. I recommend that you do the same case study, because once you're done with 7, your part of your Chapter 8's already done, right? That's kind of the thinking. The other thing that I have here is an improve your site assignment. And if you read what it says, improve your personal site design by incorporating all the requirements from the previous week's assignments, so all the stuff you were supposed to do last unit. Improving the function and design, so keep making it better. And adding a page that includes a table. Okay? So find something that you might want to put in the table. You know, if you're doing like a video game site, maybe you'll do all the versions of the video game. I'm just stretching. Or if you have like a product list that you're making, you can be a list of products or whatever your favorite foods are. That's up to you. The table can be used to display information. You can also experiment with using a table to do a page layout if you wish. So if you want to do a multi-column design, you could always use a table in the middle of a page to put columns in as just an experimentation. All right, those are your options. So don't fall behind. I think the due dates on most of these things are a couple of weeks out at this point. Well, about a week out. All right? So you got a week and a few days to do this stuff. So just make sure you get on it and don't fall behind. Always remember this as well, to maximize your points. If you turn in a work in progress by the due date and just say, hey, I'm not quite done with this yet, but this is what I have so far, then there's no late penalty if you complete the work within a week. If you just turn it in late penalties kick in automatically. 2 weeks late, half the points is the most you get. I haven't been really harsh on that so far, but we're past the midterm point, and I keep telling you guys, now I'm going to start getting harsh on it because I want you guys to keep on task. Because what's going to happen is we're going to keep adding new technologies each week we come in, and you're going to be making new pages and new stuff, and if you're not with it, you're going to be falling behind, and I don't want you to be in that point. If you need help, reach out to me. I'll help guide you gladly. Form study groups with your peers. Go to the Learning Success Center, get with a tutor. Hop up online, watch some Linda videos, rewatch my videos. It's all out there, all right? And I'm going to put examples from what I did in class here linked up to my Apollo page again. I'm not putting Chapter 5 solutions for the case studies out there yet. I'm going to wait a little while. I will eventually put them out there. But Chapter 4 is complete for all of them out on my launch page, so you guys can go take a look. All right? All right, we'll talk to you guys soon. See you next week.